Remember Billy, 3 simple rules. No bright light, don't get them wet, and never ever feed them after midnight. Gremlins wasn't just a cute Christmas horror comedy, it was an absolute production nightmare that nearly destroyed its own director, terrorized studio executives, and created one of the most expensive puppet disasters in Hollywood history. Behind those adorable Mogwai faces lurked broken animatronics, puppet operators collapsing from exhaustion, and a director who almost quit filmmaking forever. Steven Spielberg fought brutal studio battles while mechanical creatures literally fell apart mid-scene. Chris Columbus crafted a script so dark that executives demanded emergency rewrites. The film that charmed audiences was born from pure chaos. Today, I'm revealing 20 weird facts about Gremlins that expose the madness behind the magic. From Gizmo's 7 different personalities to the banned scenes too violent for theaters, these secrets will change how you see Kingston Falls forever. But wait until you hear the bonus fact about what really happened to all those Gremlin puppets after filming Wrapped. Trust me, it's darker than anything that made it to the screen. Let's feed these secrets after midnight. The Gizmo puppet was actually 7 different personalities. What audiences saw as one lovable Mogwai was actually a complex system of 7 distinct Gizmo puppets, each engineered for specific emotional ranges. The happy Gizmo puppet could only express joy and curiosity. The sad Gizmo was built exclusively for tears and distress. There was even a singing Gizmo with specialized internal mechanics for musical numbers. The big problem with puppets is that they need operators, and some of these creatures required up to 12 people to work the controls. Each Gizmo variant demanded its own team of 3 to 6 puppeteers working in cramped spaces beneath sets. The operators developed an almost telepathic connection, knowing which Gizmo was needed for each emotional beat. When Phoebe Cates delivered her famous "worst thing that ever happened to me on Christmas" monologue, she performed it 7 separate times, once for each Gizmo's reaction. Director Joe Dante later admitted that switching between personalities mid-scene created continuity nightmares that haunted the editing process for months. Steven Spielberg saved the movie by killing his own creatures. Chris Columbus originally wrote Gremlins as a pure horror film where the creatures devoured Billy's mother and beheaded his dog. The script was so violent that it made executives physically uncomfortable during table reads. Steven Spielberg, serving as executive producer, faced a brutal choice: let Columbus destroy his commercial appeal or fundamentally alter the story. Gremlins went through many different scripts before landing on its final story, but the original would have ruined the film if not for Spielberg. The off-screen death they kept was so much more tragic than anything that could have been shown on screen. Spielberg demanded massive rewrites but fought to preserve one tragic element: the revelation about Kate's father's death in the chimney. The compromise created the film's unique tonal balance. Spielberg insisted that every death occur off-screen or involve non-human characters. This decision transformed Gremlins from a straight horror film into something entirely new, a Christmas movie that could genuinely terrify children while still allowing parents to take them to theaters. The animatronics broke down every single day of production. The animatronics broke down constantly. It was frustrating but fitting. In the film, Billy's father, Randall, is an inventor of gadgets that look neat but are really junk. The irony wasn't lost on director Joe Dante, who watched his mechanical creatures malfunction with the same frequency as the failed inventions in his movie. Every morning began with a 2-hour puppet hospital session. Technicians repaired broken servos, replaced torn latex skin, and rewired control mechanisms that had failed overnight. The Gremlin puppets were particularly vulnerable. Their more complex facial expressions required delicate internal machinery that couldn't withstand repeated takes. The production fell weeks behind schedule as crews waited for repairs. Insurance companies demanded daily reports on puppet conditions. Warner Brothers executives grew increasingly nervous as costs spiraled beyond projections. Dante later revealed that he considered abandoning practical effects entirely and switching to animation, but the film was too far into production to change course. Phoebe Cates performed her chimney monologue to a brick wall. The film's most emotionally devastating moment, Kate's revelation about finding her father dead in the chimney dressed as Santa, was performed without any other actors present. Phoebe Cates delivered the entire monologue to a brick wall with chalk marks indicating where Zach Galligan's character would be positioned. Scheduling conflicts had separated the two actors during this crucial scene. Dante realized that Kate's performance was so powerful that adding reaction shots might diminish its impact. The decision to keep her monologue uninterrupted created one of 1980s cinema's most haunting moments. What audiences don't know is that Cates broke down crying after each take, not from the emotional content, but from the isolation of performing alone. The crew remained completely silent during filming, creating an atmosphere so somber that several technicians later described it as funeral-like. That genuine sadness permeates every frame of her performance. The microwave scene almost killed a puppeteer. The infamous scene where Stripe meets his demise in a department store microwave pushed practical effects to dangerous extremes. The puppet's explosive death required controlled pyrotechnics inside an actual working microwave, with a puppeteer's hand positioned just inches from the blast. Safety coordinators initially refused to film the sequence as written. They demanded extensive fire-retardant suits and blast shields that would be visible on camera. Dante insisted on authenticity, leading to heated arguments with studio safety departments and insurance representatives. The final compromise involved building a specialized microwave with removable panels and reinforced shielding. Even so, the puppeteer suffered minor burns on his wrist from sparks that escaped the containment system. The shot appears in the film for less than 3 seconds, but required 2 full days of preparation and multiple safety inspections to achieve safely. Chuck Jones drew every single Gremlin expression by hand. Warner Brothers animation legend Chuck Jones, creator of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, served as an uncredited visual consultant on Gremlins. His involvement went far beyond casual advice. Jones personally sketched every facial expression that appeared in the final film. The animatronics team received detailed character sheets showing precise mouth positions, eye movements, and ear angles for different emotions. Jones applied classic animation principles to mechanical puppets, creating expressions that felt genuinely alive rather than robotic. Chuck Jones, the Warner Brothers animation legend, makes a brief on-screen cameo in the scene with Billy Zach Galligan and Gerald Judge Reinhold trading insults. His cameo appearance was Dante's tribute to the man who made the Gremlins emotionally believable. Jones later admitted that translating two-dimensional animation to three-dimensional puppets presented challenges he'd never encountered in decades of cartoon work. The Kingston Falls set was built completely backwards. The entire Kingston Falls town square was constructed in reverse to accommodate the limitations of puppet operation. Buildings that appeared to be on the right side of Main Street were actually positioned on the left, with all signage and storefronts mirrored during post-production. This decision emerged from the necessity of hiding puppet operators and their equipment. The complex array of cables, pulleys, and control mechanisms required specific positioning that didn't match the script's geographical descriptions. Rather than rewrite scenes, production designer James Spencer rebuilt the entire town backwards. The reverse construction created unexpected problems during filming. Actors constantly became disoriented, walking toward exits that led deeper into sets. Director of photography John Hora had to completely reimagine his lighting setup to match the flipped geography. The continuity department worked with reversed maps and backwards blocking notes that confused even veteran script supervisors. Corey Feldman's character almost didn't survive the final cut. Pete Fontaine, played by young Corey Feldman, was originally scripted to become a Gremlin victim during the theater massacre. Test audiences reacted so negatively to a child's death that Warner Brothers demanded emergency reshoots to save the character. The solution required creative editing and additional dialogue recording. Feldman had to return months after principal photography to film new scenes showing his escape from the theater. His character's survival was accomplished through careful sound design and strategic cutaways that suggested his presence without showing him. What audiences never realized is that Feldman's survival scenes were filmed in a completely different location with body doubles for the other actors. The editing seamlessly integrated footage shot 6 months apart, creating the illusion of continuous action. This last-minute change added over $200,000 to the production budget, but prevented potential ratings board problems. The department store rampage destroyed $75,000 worth of real merchandise. Montgomery Ward provided actual inventory for the department store sequences, expecting to retrieve undamaged goods after filming. They weren't prepared for the Gremlins' systematic destruction of their merchandise. Real televisions, stereo systems, and sporting goods were demolished during the chaos scenes. The puppets' movements were too unpredictable to rely on breakaway props, so production used genuine products to achieve authentic destruction. Montgomery Ward's insurance claim became one of the largest prop-related losses in film history. The store's management initially embraced the partnership, seeing it as valuable product placement. They changed their tune after witnessing the comprehensive devastation. One executive reportedly watched $15,000 worth of electronics destroyed in a single take and demanded that filming stop immediately. Negotiations with corporate lawyers lasted longer than the actual shooting schedule. Go ahead and like and subscribe because the pool scene almost drowned everyone. The YMCA pool sequence pushed both puppets and puppeteers to life-threatening extremes. The Gremlins' aquatic mayhem required operators to work underwater while controlling complex mechanical creatures that weren't designed for submersion. Professional divers supervised the shoot, but several puppeteers panicked when their breathing apparatus malfunctioned beneath the pool's surface. The mechanical creatures became waterlogged and exponentially heavier, making precise control nearly impossible. Emergency procedures were implemented after a technician nearly passed out underwater. The scene that appears playful and energetic in the final film was actually a controlled disaster. Multiple takes were required because the puppets sank unexpectedly or became entangled in their own control cables. Insurance representatives stationed at the poolside demanded additional safety protocols after witnessing close calls during the first day of filming. Stripe's death scene used real fire on a live puppet. The climactic sunlight scene where Stripe dissolves into green goo involved genuine flame effects applied to a functioning animatronic. No CGI existed to create the character's destruction, forcing the effects team to literally burn their own creation. The puppet was rigged with hidden flame jets and dissolving chemicals that activated in sequence. Puppeteers controlled Stripe's final moments while fire consumed the mechanical components around their hands. The timing had to be perfect. Too early, and the puppet couldn't complete its performance. Too late, and the flames would spread to the operators. 3 different Stripe puppets were destroyed during filming. Each death was slightly different, allowing editors to combine the most effective elements. The final composite used parts from all 3 destruction sequences, creating Stripe's demise from multiple puppet deaths. The remaining pieces of the burned creatures were considered too damaged for any museum or collector to preserve. The film's original ending was too dark for 1984 audiences. Chris Columbus crafted a conclusion where the Gremlins successfully overran Kingston Falls, transforming it into a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Billy's family died defending their home, and the military arrived to find a town completely consumed by chaos. This ending tested so poorly with preview audiences that Warner Brothers demanded a complete reshoot of the final act. Focus groups described feeling traumatized and depressed by the film's nihilistic conclusion. Parents complained that the ending was inappropriately dark for a movie marketed to families. The new ending, with its hopeful resolution and Gizmo's heroic intervention, required extensive rewrites and additional weeks of production. Dante later admitted that he preferred the original, darker conclusion, but understood that commercial viability required a more optimistic finale. The apocalyptic ending's footage was reportedly destroyed to prevent bootleg distribution. Judge Reinhold's character was added to replace a dead dog. Gerald Hopkins, played by Judge Reinhold, wasn't in the original script. His character was created to replace narrative functions originally served by Billy's dog, who died violently in Columbus's first draft. When Spielberg eliminated the dog's death, screenwriters realized they needed another character to provide comic relief and exposition. Reinhold was cast just 2 weeks before filming began, learning his lines on set without any rehearsal time with the other actors. The bank teller scenes were improvised around Reinhold's availability and natural comedic timing. His chemistry with Zach Galligan developed organically during filming, leading to additional scenes being written on location. What audiences see as a planned supporting character was actually a last-minute replacement created to solve narrative problems caused by script changes. The Creature Shop operated like a 24-hour emergency room. What everyone should remember is that with so many wires and crew people on set, it was a miracle that we could even move the camera. The puppet repair facility operated around the clock, with technicians working in shifts to maintain the creatures between takes. Medical terminology infiltrated daily production reports. Puppets were diagnosed with servo failures, treated for latex tears, and discharged when ready for filming. The Creature Shop maintained detailed medical charts, tracking each puppet's condition and repair history. Senior technicians developed specialized expertise in different puppet injuries. One became known as the Gizmo cardiac surgeon for his skill in repairing the character's complex internal mechanisms. Another specialized in Gremlin dermatology, patching the latex skin that tore during action sequences. The anthropomorphic language reflected the crew's genuine emotional attachment to their mechanical characters. Hoyt Axton's invention scenes were all practical effects gone wrong. Randall Peltzer's malfunctioning inventions weren't scripted failures. They were actual prop malfunctions that Dante incorporated into the character's personality. Hoyt Axton's frustrated reactions were genuine responses to equipment that refused to work properly. The bathroom scale that gives incorrect readings was supposed to function normally, but its mechanism broke during the first take. Axton's confused expression and improvised dialogue were so perfect that Dante kept the malfunction in the film. This established the pattern for all of Randall's subsequent invention scenes. Props department developed a reputation for creating devices that looked impressive but functioned poorly. This wasn't intentional incompetence. The visual requirements for movie props often conflict with actual functionality. Axton learned to expect failures and developed an improvisational skill that enhanced his character's believability as a hapless inventor. The theater massacre was filmed in complete silence. The devastating movie theater sequence where Gremlins watch Snow White and terrorize audiences was shot without any sound recording. The cacophony of creature voices, breaking glass, and human screams was entirely constructed in post-production. This decision emerged from the impossibility of capturing clean dialogue with dozens of puppeteers operating beneath the theater seats. The puppet operators' breathing, mechanical whirring, and whispered communications would have contaminated any live recording. The silent filming created an eerie atmosphere on set. Actors performed their terror without hearing the chaos that audiences would eventually experience. Director Joe Dante described directing the sequence as conducting a silent orchestra, communicating through hand gestures and visual cues rather than verbal direction. The final sound design added over 200 individual audio elements to create the theater's apocalyptic soundscape. Kate's department store job required learning real retail skills. Phoebe Cates spent 2 weeks training with actual Montgomery Ward employees to authentically portray a department store clerk. She learned cash register operation, inventory procedures, and customer service protocols that informed her character's believable workplace behavior. The training proved essential when the Gremlins began their rampage. Cates needed to navigate the store's layout naturally while reacting to puppet-induced chaos. Her familiarity with actual retail procedures allowed her to perform realistic responses to the creature's systematic destruction. What audiences don't realize is that Cates continued working the cash register between takes, actually serving customers who wandered onto the set thinking the store was open for business. Several real transactions were processed during filming breaks, with unsuspecting shoppers appearing as background extras without realizing they were in a movie. The multiplying Gremlins scene broke every puppet simultaneously. The pool metamorphosis, where Gizmo's water exposure creates dozens of gremlins, pushed the creature effects beyond their mechanical limits. Every single puppet malfunctioned during the sequence, creating a production crisis that nearly shut down filming. The cocoon effects required practical animatronics synchronized with carefully timed water effects. When the timing went wrong, which happened repeatedly, the mechanical creatures became waterlogged and inoperable. The scene that lasts 90 seconds in the film required 6 days to complete. Emergency puppet repair stations were established around the pool area. Technicians worked feverishly to dry out and repair waterlogged creatures while cameras continued rolling. Some takes used puppets that were literally falling apart mid-scene, with operators struggling to control mechanisms that were shorting out from water damage. The final sequence combines footage from dozens of partial takes to create the illusion of seamless transformation. Billy's mother's kitchen defense was Zach Galligan's idea. Frances Lee McCain's iconic sequence where she defeats gremlins using kitchen appliances wasn't in the original script. Zach Galligan suggested that Billy's mother should have her own action scene, leading to the memorable blender and microwave confrontations. The kitchen battle required extensive safety coordination and specially designed breakaway props. McCain performed many of her own stunts, including the famous microwave sequence that became one of the film's most quotable moments. What makes the scene particularly impressive is that McCain was performing opposite puppets that often malfunctioned mid-take. Her reactions to creatures that suddenly stopped moving or fell apart required genuine improvisational skill. The kitchen became a testing ground for human-puppet interaction that influenced how subsequent scenes were filmed. The film created Hollywood's first puppet union crisis. The sheer number of puppeteers required for Gremlins created unprecedented labor negotiations with multiple entertainment unions. Traditional puppet operators belonged to different guilds than the animatronics technicians, creating jurisdictional disputes over who could control which creatures. Some scenes required union representatives from 4 different organizations to be present simultaneously. Each puppet needed operators from specific guilds based on its mechanical complexity and performance requirements. The bureaucratic complications added weeks to the production schedule. The resolution established new precedents for creature-heavy productions. Union rules were modified to accommodate the hybrid nature of animatronic performance, creating guidelines that still govern puppet-heavy productions today. The Gremlins production became a case study in entertainment labor law, influencing how subsequent creature features negotiated their crew requirements. Bonus fact: here's the secret that Warner Brothers never wanted revealed. Dozens of gremlin puppets vanished during production, stolen by the very craftsmen who built them. The creature shop workers, knowing that their mechanical children would likely be destroyed or warehoused after filming, orchestrated an elaborate heist to preserve their creations. The theft was discovered during final inventory checks, but studio executives chose not to prosecute. They realized that pursuing legal action would create negative publicity and potentially expose how carelessly they'd planned to dispose of the creatures. Several puppets later appeared in private collections and horror conventions, but their origins remained officially unacknowledged. The stolen Gremlins became underground legends in the effects community. Master craftsmen kept them as portfolio pieces, occasionally bringing them to industry gatherings where their survival was celebrated as a victory against corporate disposal. Some reportedly still function today, 40 years later, preserved by the artists who gave them life. The chaos behind Gremlins reveals a fundamental truth about 1980s filmmaking. The most beloved movies often emerged from complete disasters. What audiences remember as seamless entertainment was actually born from broken puppets, panicked executives, and exhausted craftsmen who refused to compromise their vision. The film's enduring appeal stems not from perfect execution, but from the passionate imperfection of artists solving impossible problems with creativity and determination. Every malfunctioning puppet, every emergency rewrite, every late-night repair session contributed to the authentic magic that still captivates audiences decades later. Hit that like button if these secrets changed how you see Kingston Falls, and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes chaos from your favorite films, because sometimes the real monsters are the ones you never see coming. Remember, there are 3 rules for great filmmaking. No bright lights on the budget, don't get the schedule wet, and never, ever stop believing in practical effects after midnight.